What's up, guys? This is Jay from COI, and so I'm gonna do the show a little bit different today. Usually, I talk about political stories and kind of break them down or put my spin on them. But today, I have more questions than anything, and it does pertain to the popular political things that happened today. But first, I'll get to Trump doing the State of the Union. It was pretty standard. Um, he said certain things that weren't true, but it was a rah rah America, look at the good job I'm doing kind of State of the Union. And that's what they've all done. It's a very establishment of him to do that. Um, and so I don't fault him for the lies because they all tell those lies. Again, it's such a. I mean, you go back to the 2011, 2012 State of the Union, and Obama was doing the same thing. It was just like you could tell, like, and you could fact check him on those things. I would really be curious if there was ever a president who went up there, gave a State of the Union address, and it was just like, we're fucked. No, it's almost always just a rally speech, and just a couple things to kind of push back on Trump's State of the Union. He talked about unemployment being an all-time low, and for his measurement, he's right. The thing that he didn't say, and it hasn't been brought up before, is that they changed how they measure it. So under Obama, it was even measured really. It was done really shady. It was basically like if you haven't been actively looking for a job in, I think under Obama, it was like 8 months. And I'm not sure if I'm right on that, but I believe it was like 8 months. Then you just didn't count. And like under Trump, it's like 4 months if you haven't been actively. And that could be people who are hurt, people who are recovering from something, um, women uh, who have given birth. There's a lot of people in that range. And just to kind of support my statement there, out of in America, out of active, able-bodied adults, only 63% of them are employed. So there's 47 unemployed adults. So where, our unemployment numbers should look a lot different than like the three, four, that we hear. Even Obama, it was like at one point it was like 8, and people are like, oh my God, it's crazy. But if you actually looked into the actual numbers, we were closer to like 27%. Um, and they all do that. So I'm not gonna say too much. The only other thing that he said that really kind of, I don't know, bothered me was when he said, "We have lifted 10 million people out of welfare," and that's not true. More like he kicked 10 million people off. Again, his standard changed. He dropped the poverty level at which you could apply for welfare, and it's to the point. The people who I have been in contact with, even in the state that I live in, Um, it's about impossible to really get on welfare. So yeah, I mean, he did. Again, he didn't lie technically, but it's a really different way of putting it. But that kind of takes me to the other big story, and that's the Iowa caucus. And I went over that last night. We went over Shadow Inc. We went over um, acronym and the DNC and how they controlled it and how Pete Buttigieg, we found out Joe Biden had actually put funding into the Shadow Inc. company who ran the mobile app. And yeah, I mean, not much has changed, honestly. The biggest change is, look, we can't say for certain that Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg paid this company for the app. We just know that they paid the company. Can't say what they paid for. Can't say what relationship they had with the company. Although we can also say, though, this company is headed by a Hillary Clinton staffer. Someone really high up in Hillary Clinton, the old administration that was Hillary Clinton's. Um, full of neoliberals. So yeah, kind of weird. Um, and there's been two takes on this whole thing with the Iowa caucus and the DNC. From my side of things, the progressive wing, and it's people who are incredibly angry and incredibly active. And then there's another group of people who it's like you killed their puppy. They realized that we are seeing the death of democracy, and they didn't have what they had thought they had in a vote. And that's the thing. It doesn't matter really if Pete or if Biden or the DNC did mess with this, um, with the caucusing. It doesn't matter who is involved. It matters that the faith in democracy is eroding very quickly right now. And it has been for a little while, but I think the first time, especially as a progressive in dealing with the DNC, and the first time they're up to bat, they grab the ball and run around with it, come back and hit a home run, and you're like, "What'd you do to the ball?" you know, we're in a weird place with it, and it's kind of sad. Um, it's not kind of sad; it's very sad. But it did make me think about something, and that is, I to the core am a Bernie Sanders supporter, and I want Bernie Sanders to win. But part of me was thinking, what happens if the idea of Bernie Sanders is no longer there anymore? Not like he dies, because he'll be celebrated. But I mean, what if he wins? And what if he pulls a Trump? You know, the Trump supporters got behind Trump because he was an outlier. At the time, he campaigned as a populist, a man of the people. He didn't look establishment at all. I mean, he was almost I mean, when it turns out his policies are almost more Hillary Clinton than Hillary Clinton. But he looked like that salt of the earth kind of guy. Screw the establishment. I'm here to speak up for the little man. And what happens if that happens to Bernie? I don't believe it will. I mean, in my soul, which I don't believe we have one, but I don't believe that Bernie's going to turn tail like that. But you wonder, what happens if they get in power and the deep state or whatever actually does manipulate these guys? Like, what if Clinton at one point was virtuous? And they're like, hey, you like your daughter? Well, you're not going to be able to keep her if you don't do what we say. Like, what if that is the case? And I was thinking about if Bernie won and he turned into an establishment Dem. The repercussion of that would be insane. I don't believe that we would. There's just so many people that I think would give up on democracy. And the idea of that becomes very static and very scary. In many ways, it's like what's happening to the Republican side of things right now. The Trumpers still believe Trump because he's there, but when they take a step back, like in 2 years when they walk away from Trump, or 6 years if he wins, and they look and they're like, well, he didn't do any of this stuff he said he was going to do. Why didn't I see that at the time? And it's because they're too close right now, and you can't blame them because that was their guy. And they always want to believe he's going to be doing the best. But they're going to take a step back and actually look at the policy, and they're going to see exactly not what he says, not what Mitch McConnell says, but exactly what these policies have done. And we're going to see the Republican Party. You're going to have the evangelicals who are they're always going to be there. And they're going to be the Mitt Romney's proper, no one should have sex and we should all listen to country music kind of people. But the blue collar middle ground Republican, I don't know where they're going to go. Or even if they're going to care anymore. And just assume, screw it, I'm going independent. And then you have all the the Democrats, who the neo-lib people, they're all going to be there. The identity politics or the woke police before you have the progressives. The progressives of the side who were so concentrated on policy. And if they leave because Bernie turns tail or Bernie doesn't win, which is a huge probability, where do we all go? Do we all just go into the middle to the independent? I hope. I hope that's the outcome. I really do. I hope it doesn't turn into something worse. I don't know. Again, it just got me thinking about it. Like, is the idea of a Bernie Sanders or a Ron Paul of the day, is the idea better when it's intangible? Because then it can never let you down. Because it can never turn into the thing you hate. Is it better as a goal that we will never reach than to lose it? I don't know. Just my thoughts. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought about the State of the Union, the Iowa caucus. Right now, interesting enough, Pete Buttigieg is leading with about 70% reporting. It's a slim margin. It's like 1.3%, I believe. So we'll see. There's certain counties that some people on the ground that I know for the Bernie team say that they handedly won those counties, and so Bernie may end up winning this whole thing. Even if he doesn't, this whole debacle, I know I said it and I mean it. I think it should be disqualifying for Biden and for Buttigieg. Um, but even if not, this blew up in their face. I mean, they're like that portrait of Daffy Duck when he gets his bill blown behind his head. That's exactly what it looks like. Because even if Buttigieg won, he got ripped off the ability to grandstand his victory and to talk about how amazing it was. Now people are just going to call him Mayor Cheat. And, you can see why. These many irregularities, and he happened to be I mean, that there's a stronger connection to that than there is to Russia. To be honest, guys, if you're gonna sit there and say that the president of the United States was working with Russia, but you're not gonna call Mayor Pete out on this, yeah, it doesn't look good on you. Anyway, I'm curious about your thoughts about all that stuff. Anyway, guys, have a great evening. Take care.